Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Russell Jackman. Mike McDowd is off today. At each commercial break, we are going to ask a trivia question. There's no guest today, so it's just going to be Russell and I talking sports. A lot of football going on.
You can disconnect now. You can disconnect now. Now, there are no guests.
A couple of things I want to talk about in the next segment is, who looks like the MVP so far? Is it Stafford? Is it Derek May? Purdy is.
So last night, I can tell you it's not Stafford.
Yeah, that was not that he may have kicked himself out from. Was it 3 interceptions?
Yeah, and he was very lucky that the game was even as close as it was.
Yeah, there've been some nice, close games recently.
Yeah, no, but especially the Chicago one, which we'll talk about.
Oh yeah, no, that was good. Okay, and then this is something I know you have an affinity dislike just as much as I do. There are too many NFL games that are on these streaming platforms. Versus,
I've only been talking about that. It's like since the moment it happened. So yes.
Yeah, which I remember the first one that really got to me was the Kansas City one that was Miami. A playoff. It was on Peacock.
Yeah, it was Thanksgiving, I think.
Yeah, something crazy, and we'll definitely talk more about that because I have some business thoughts on that as well. Of course, what do I know, right? I'm not one of these billionaires or trillionaires that have all this money to spend and own all these various platforms. Let's see here. I tell you what, just for fun, I'm going to tell my little joke of the week here. Okay, so I picked up a hitchhiker. He seemed like a nice guy, and after a few miles, he asked me if I wasn't afraid that he might be a serial killer. And I told him, come on, what are the odds of 2 serial killers being in the same car?
I've heard that one before.
You've heard that one before. Okay, all right. Audience, stay with us. Sports Econ 101. I'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. Mike McDowd is off today because we are in the new year. Happy New Year to you there, Russell.
Kind of. I mean, we're still back in time if you want to be technically
correct. That's true. We did record a couple of days early. Shh, don't tell anybody. All right. So first thing I want to talk about.
Still in the good old days. Except that I don't consider 2025 the good old days.
No, that was not actually a very good year for me. So
no, look, I had my shoulder reconstruction that I had to deal with, and a bunch of other things that happened personally with myself. So yeah, no, I'm ready for this year to be over with, and hopefully the new year is going well for everybody else.
There you go. I'm looking forward to 2026 myself. All right, so let's get on to tease the audience with one of the things I wanted to talk about, which is too many NFL games are on these silly streaming platforms. Now,
well, it's not just the NFL too. I mean, I've been complaining about the fact that they put the games for the Cup, the Emirates Cup, or the Observe You Urinate Cup, which is what I've been calling it. CUP, get it?
Yeah, I get it.
Yes, but I've been saying that they've been doing this, and my great fear is that one day you're going to be watching the NBA on 82 different channels. And you're going to be watching. You're going to have to come up with 82 subscriptions to watch each game. You're going to have to get 17 subscriptions to watch the NFL, plus another 6 subscriptions to watch the playoffs. And you're going to need to.
And I think you mentioned last time, you may have to pay per quarter.
Yeah, or maybe by play. You want to see the complete. If you want to see the ball completed or not, pay another $10.
Well, so now you got stuff like ESPN who, you watch the highlights, right? And they're pretty good about showing, most of the highlights, but that's kind of my point. So, there's so many of these streaming platforms. I mean, who has Fubo, and how many people really have Peacock? And, now Amazon Prime, a lot of people have, I do also. Okay,
I
well, I
don't.
know. I mean, but that's a little bit of a major one. But here's the problem too. You have to watch it live. There are a lot of times I like to pause a game when I've either sometimes when I'm watching regular, let's say DirecTV live, I can pause it, go to the bathroom, and then come back to
It
it.
also makes channel flipping very difficult. If you want to flip from one, it's one thing
Yeah,
when something's on CBS and then something else is on Fox. When CBS is on a
yeah,
commercial, you flip over to Fox, you just hit the
yeah,
back button. If
yeah.
you're logged into certain sites, you have to close that site, open
Correct.
up another site, log into that site, and then going back to the other site, you sometimes have to log back in, and
And
they'll bug you if
But that's and I think that's the whole issue, right? Is that like with me seeing stuff on DirecTV where I can just fast forward if let's say a lot of times I'll just record the game and watch it later on, just make sure I don't see any highlights of anything because they may accidentally show the score. I can fast forward through all that stuff, and that's where the advertisers are getting kind of upset because nobody's
exactly
watching the commercials, right? So
right.
like with Amazon Prime, you have to watch it live. You can't even if you have a subscription, you can't pause it and say,
Right.
okay, let me go to
They
the
want to
bathroom.
make sure it's weird. We went from like having all this control, like being
Yeah.
able to watch games when you want to watch them and not have to watch the ads and all of that. Now we've lost control again. Now
Yeah.
they're doing the exact opposite. They're taking control back over and saying, no, you not only do you have to watch this whole thing all the way through, you can't record it, but you also can't really change channels easily. So you're held captive. Like, why, unless you're like me, like you would bring up 4 different websites and each one of them has their own square on your computer, but that's not so easy to do with the TV. That's if you do it
Right.
through the computer that you can do it. But with the
Yeah.
TV, it's not so easy to do. And older
Yeah.
folks who don't understand the technology that well, they don't know how to do that at all. I mean,
Yeah.
I
I
know how
got
to do it because I'm
yeah,
savvy.
because you're a computer guy. Yeah, exactly. But and that's the other thing is, they're even I think on Amazon, there's certain shows or even maybe even Netflix, but Amazon I think specifically where it's like you can watch something and maybe not even have to pay a Prime fee, but you have to listen. You can't fast forward through the commercials. And it's like, okay, well, that's not the worst thing in the world because even if you decide to pause it to go to the bathroom or something or make yourself a sandwich, you can always come back. And okay, maybe you're forced to watch the commercials, but it's like, okay, that's not so bad. But not being able to even pause it is annoying.
It's annoying, but I think it's even worse that you just have to keep paying and paying and paying and paying.
Yep.
And it's not like Comcast reduces their cable fee because you're having to pay for others' channels. It used to
Right.
be, I pay plenty for a sports channel. I pay an extra like $20 a month so that I can
Yeah.
have sports channel, which I feel should entitle me to all 162 Giant games and all 82 Warriors games. But now I'm finding that keeps getting eroded. It's a game here and it's a game there. It's Apple TV, taking
Yeah.
over and taking 4 or 5 Giants games. And first you're like, okay, well, I don't care because they're going to, show the Giants against Seattle or the Giants against Houston or something that isn't like a big deal. But
Sure.
soon it's going to be like the rivalry games. Like you won't be able to watch Giants against Dodgers
Dodgers,
unless you
yeah.
have Apple TV. They'll say, oh, 49ers against the Rams. That's going to be Prime now. And unless you have
Yeah.
Prime, you're not going to be able to see them. It's one thing when they would, and then, they start off saying, well, you can get a free subscription if you want to watch that. Well, that's great
Yeah.
for a month.
For
But,
a month. Yeah.
the ones that you really want are going to be like towards the end of the season.
So do you use Amazon at all, like to buy anything?
No, I'm an eBay guy. I actually really, 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 really dislike Jeff Bezos. I really dislike
Okay,
him.
I mean, I definitely have my issues too.
He's a horrible human being. He treats his workers terribly. And the people, you've heard stories about people passing out on the assembly lines for Amazon and being told they can't take a bathroom break. That taking a
Well,
bathroom break.
you know what, though, I haven't heard that, but I'd be a little suspect. I'm not saying they're lying, but let me tell you a quick little story. We had a guy who was, I was involved with this camping facility, right? And we had one of our this guy was our manager, and we had to let him go because he just wasn't doing a good job. So he sued us And his claim that he tried to go to the labor board with was he never got a lunch break, never got a break at all. And it was really stupid because I mean, being a manager, he could kind of make most of his own hours. But we even had pictures of like when my offsite manager would buy lunch for everybody, and so she's had pictures of him eating lunch that we provided for him for free, where he had a lunch break. So let me put it this way: sometimes employees lie, not all of them, but sometimes. So I'd be a little surprised, or let me
Would
put it
you
this way.
believe what the Senate committee, the chairman of the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions, just figured out last year, so after an 18-month investigation, the shockingly dangerous working conditions at Amazon's warehouses revealed in this 160-page report are beyond unacceptable. Making matters even worse,
Okay,
Amazon's executives.
I could see, and we're kind of getting off the sports part of it, but I can see safety issues being a little bit different than, gee, I passed out and they wouldn't let me go to the bathroom. That's different than,
Amazon forces workers to operate in a system that demands impossible rates and treats them as disposable when they're injured. It accepts worker injuries and their long-term pain and disabilities as the cost of doing business. This is what the Senate
that's sort of
report.
Aaron Brockovich with the PG&E, right? It's like PG&E or whoever company basically says, yeah, we're willing to let a lot of people die. It's just the cost of doing
Yes,
business. Okay, so we have to pay.
yes,
So I don't
and
really
that's
care
that's
about.
deplorable. It's
Okay, let's go
deplorable.
to our first. Let's go to our first trivia question here. Which singer is known as the Queen of Pop? That's our trivia question.
Okay,
Which
I think I know who
singer
that is.
is known as the Queen of Pop? Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We are going to talk sports. We were talking a little bit about Amazon, but now we're going to go back to sports when we come back. Don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101. I'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. First trivia question: which singer is known as the Queen of Pop?
Madonna.
Yes, that is
There we
correct.
go.
Yeah,
Now,
and I think
what? Okay, since we are going to talk about sports, I want to talk about because it's the last show of 2025, even if you're
yeah,
listening to it in 2026. I did want to go through the athletes, the notable athletes who died, and sports figures who died in 2025, and just give a little
go ahead.
bit of a shout out to them. Of course, we lost the great George Foreman,
Yeah,
if you remember, and Ryan
yeah.
Sandberg. You know, the surprising death of Eldon Campbell, which I still don't really know what happened to him.
Wait a minute.
There was-
Did you just say Ryan Sandberg died?
yeah, Ryan Sandberg died this year.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think it was cancer.
Oh my gosh, he's my age.
I
Um,
know. He was they died July 28th.
I don't know why that one passed by me, but okay.
Well,
Who else?
yeah, it was a busy year. Eldon Campbell died kind of
Yeah,
mysteriously, and he is my age. He was like 56.
yeah.
So he drowned. Okay,
Oh, that's
after
right.
apparently he had a heart attack or something, and then fell in the water and died while fishing. Then there was the sad case of Marshawn Nealand, who committed suicide for Dallas. And
Yeah,
then there's Bob Euchre, who died, Lenny Wilkins, who died,
yeah.
Dave Parker, who died, Junior Bridgman, who died,
That's
Oliver
right.
Miller, who died, Fuzzy Zeller, who died, Steve Mongo McMichael, who was a wrestler and
Yeah.
obviously a football player, champion football player,
Oh yeah.
died. You know, Dick Barnett died. Paul Tagliabue passed
Yeah.
away. Doug Martin, which was a huge surprise, the running back for many years.
Oh yeah.
Of course, Hulk Hogan was a
Yeah.
huge,
Of course.
a huge thing. And that he's probably, to me, maybe the most significant one
Yeah.
because he was, so
I agree.
front and center in such a media way. But there were some very significant deaths, including the George Foreman one,
Yeah. I'm
and
so upset about that George Foreman Ali one because if they would have fought not in Zaire, but if they would have fought in the United States, the training would have been a little bit better for both of them, and I think Foreman would have won. He just didn't
really
train.
well. I mean, he did get a rematch, so yeah, he just. But Foreman, hey, he made more money in that Holyfield fight than he made with all his other boxing bouts added together.
Well,
So
and
I don't.
also with the George Foreman grill.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
oddly enough, I think I mentioned it before, is that Hulk Hogan was offered the George Foreman grill,
I didn't
and
know that.
he was too afraid that there would be fires and everything, and he'd get sued for if a fire was set by it. So instead, he chose to put his name on a meatball maker, on Hulk Hogan's meatball maker. And which
That's
one do
good
you think
too.
made more money?
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan was worth 25 million when he died. George Foreman was worth 300 million because of the
That's amazing.
grills.
That's
Yeah,
amazing. Hulk Hogan was only worth 25 million. Did he
yeah.
not did he spend
Three
his way?
divorces, three divorces.
Three of them, yeah.
And I mean, he lived very opulently. He spent money as he made it. And, granted, he was probably making about $3 or $4 million a year as a wrestler, which is huge.
Yeah.
But in today's money, that's not as big as it seems. I mean, you have bottom of the league NBA players making, that kind of money. So it's a lot like, a lot of wrestlers earn money, but they earned money that was big at the time and they spent it
Yeah.
right away. And they didn't save it, and there was no compound interest for them. So once they got into, and they had a lot of drug problems, a lot of surgeries,
Yeah.
and a guy like Ric Flair has not a dime to his name. I think if you looked at like Hulk Hogan, him saving 25 million is probably pretty remarkable considering
Yeah.
the others of his era.
Well,
It's
it was Rick. I mean, he didn't. I know he was a big name in wrestling, but at the time, I mean, because I think he's older than Hulk Hogan. He didn't. Isn't he older? I mean, he didn't.
yes,
Okay, he
he
did. He
is now.
didn't. Yeah, he is. But I mean, he was always older. He didn't
Yes.
make the money that Hulk did.
No, and he spent it right away. He just as soon as a paycheck came to Ric Flair's hands, he spent it right away on like drinking and drugs and limousines and $10,000 ring robes and all of that stuff. He was known for his opulent spending, which is why he's still trying to make money now when he's like 82 years old. He's still trying to
Yeah.
endorse any product he can get his hands on because
Ergo
every
the name, ergo the name Flair.
yeah. Well, it's actually Flehr, but he made it
Oh,
Flair to
with,
make it
with,
work.
with,
Just
with,
like
with the $10,000 robes and everything. Yeah.
yeah, it's
I mean,
just like Joe Theismann told everyone to call him Joe Theismann because it rhymed with Heisman.
oh, is
Did
that?
you know that?
I didn't know that. Okay.
A lot of
Um,
people now are calling him Theismann just to put it back in his face that
no,
he's no longer remembered for being a Heisman winner, but
wait a
yeah,
minute.
it's yeah.
Did Joe Theismann win the Heisman Trophy?
I think he did. I think
I don't think so.
trying to remember. Yeah.
Good quarterback, but I don't remember him. I don't think he
He's
won it,
known
but
more for his injury than he's known
yeah,
for
I
anything else.
know.
The
And
gruesomeness of that
Lawrence
injury.
Taylor, and who was the other guy?
I don't. Jim Burt.
Oh, Harry Carson.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I still
Wow.
remember Lawrence Taylor putting his hands on his helmet. Like, oh my God, look at that injury. That
Yeah,
was
and
that was
I think that replay has changed since then. That they don't show that over and over again anymore. They just
yeah.
show it maybe one time and then cut away because they were known for just over showing that injury over and over again, and it's so
But that's
gruesome that it
well,
turned a lot of people.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like oh no, like video games. We shouldn't have violent video games because kids are able to they think about it a lot and then they're going to go ahead and do that in real life. But an injury, no one's going to purposely okay, well let's see if we can break this guy's leg and do a compound fracture. I mean,
No.
I don't. I can't. I don't know. Maybe I have a thing for a little bit of the gruesomeness, but I hate the fact that I got to go to YouTube and find, oh, let's find this injury or that injury.
You'll
Just
always
show
find it, though. That's the one thing. You'll always find it. I
it.
guess they just, don't want to keep broadcasting it, when you have that many. In other words, if you want to see it again, you can go find it again. But to the average person, they don't always want to see like something like that over and over again,
I mean,
on a broadcast.
I can appreciate that, but I appreciate them also saying, okay, we're going to show this, but if you're squeamish, look away, or get the kids out of the room or something. But at least show it a couple of times where it's like something other than just guys standing around, doing or taking a knee.
Well, now they go
Because
to commercial. Now it's just another reason
yeah,
that they go to like 5 or 6 ads, and then they come back and he's, scraped off the field and going away in the
well,
cart.
I like to look at it and go, I didn't know feet could move that way, or turn
Well,
that
that's
way.
what YouTube is for. That's what the YouTube playbacks are for. So you'll always have that. But
Oh, well, that's the other thing is that, so I tried to watch one of the games on YouTube but it's no, what they did was they have a big sign in the middle of the screen that says,
yeah,
you can pay for this, such and such, or you kind of watch the periphery. And it's like, oh
right.
my God, what's this world coming to? You
It's
know?
coming to, with athletes earning $50 million a year. In fact, I heard that for Baltimore,
Quarterback?
yeah, he's due to get $75 million next year. $75 million for 17 games if he can play.
He can play, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we're getting to the point where you're really going to be looking at guys getting that's over $10 million a game, basically, when you think about that. $75 million close.
75 million divided by 17 is less than 4 million a game.
No, it's about 5 or 6. It's about 5. 5 would be 15. Would be about 15 or 16.
5 million times 15 games is 75 million.
Yeah, 17 games.
So, it's less than 5, it's less than 4 million a game. Anyway, it's a lot of money. So, are they going to do it where the Super Bowl is going to be a situation where you're going to have to pay some premium?
Yeah, I think that's where we're headed. I think that is where we're headed, and that we're
I don't
headed
know.
for.
The thing is that the advertisers, I mean, they're spending like $3 million for like a 30-second commercial.
Right,
And
but it's not enough. It's not enough. The
yeah,
NFL greed machine wants as much as it can possibly get, and if whatever sport figures out how to make people pay for their finals, the other 2 sports are going to follow. Whether
but you
it's
know what?
baseball,
And that's where I think they're going to lose a lot of their audience, and it's only going to be people are going to go, you know what? And protest. I'm just going to wait for the highlights.
but you
And,
know
and
what? Going back to this, and I told you earlier this year that TKO, the parent corporation of the WWE,
yeah,
made the announcement saying that the WWE's fault was that they were too nice in pricing their stuff so that families could afford it. And what
yeah,
they want to do this year is kick the ticket prices up so much that only
yeah.
like the elites can go
Exactly.
to
Okay,
see.
wait. Let's go to our second trivia question. Here we go. Who was the first female prime minister of the United Kingdom? Stay with us, Sports Geek on 101. We'll be right back. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Russell Jackman. Second trivia question. Who was the first female prime minister of the United Kingdom?
Margaret Thatcher.
Yes, you're 2 for 2. Very good. So getting back to this wrestling thing you're talking about with the ticket prices, and it's so funny because wrestling, when you said, oh, it's they're making it now so only the elites can pay. I mean, generally speaking, for many, many years, wrestling was considered, the the
Blue collar.
blue collar.
Sure it was. Sure
Yeah.
it was. Yeah, and that was one big advantage is that you could go take a family of 4 to a wrestling event and maybe pay $100, for the whole thing. I mean, including parking, including food, under $100. Now that'd be $100 per person plus parking plus food. You're looking at maybe a $500 to $1,000 just single event, purchase.
Now, how many tickets do you think they're really going to sell?
It's sad. We'll see in
Yeah.
2 years when WrestleMania goes to Saudi Arabia with the Emirates,
Oh,
and they're charging $35,000 a seat for the front row. We'll see how many people are there.
well, yeah, but you know what? Those guys have so much oil money. To them, that's going to be something to do
But
just
how
to do.
many of them are there? That's the big question. Is how
There's
many?
how
Is
many
will it look
ringside seats are there? Front row
well? Yeah,
seats are.
well, there's 10,000 or 20,000 seats.
No, I
So
know, but I mean, you're talking about for the $35,000 tickets. Those are the front
what's the
row.
entire front row? Are we going to just see like one big fat prince, Saudi prince, sitting in the front row, and everything else is empty because nobody else can afford to go? Are we going to see just like
Well,
entire
we
sections?
don't know. What he'll do is he'll buy 10 of them and have his 10, cohorts, his friends, and all that. That's
Yeah,
what'll happen.
but can you possibly fill up a whole stadium that way? If we see, one guy sitting, in an entire row by himself, we're going to know that the WWE is outpriced it. But they may be looking at it just like you were saying with the programmed injuries at Amazon being a cost of doing business. They may say, hey, if we sell one seat at $35,000, that's better than selling 1,000 seats for $35. We'd rather just sell the one seat for 35,000.
Yeah, but in reality, though, if there really is only one person, how's that going to look for like TV or
They
even
won't
the rest?
care because they're making their money. They
Yeah,
won't.
no, no, there's something to do. There's something to say about having just one ticket, where one person's watching the whole thing versus a whole stadium full.
If the WWE makes money doing it, and they've already, without selling a seat at WrestleMania 57, without even selling a single seat or 37, they are already making $250 million from the Emirates. The Emirates are just paying for the rights to have the WWE show up there. They've paid TKO $250 million. In that sense, they don't have to sell a single seat to make money. Not one. And then they're going to make money with advertising, and they're going to make money with pay-per-view watches and all of this stuff. That it's almost
How much was the pay-per-view last time?
well, it's weird now because they've rolled it into like Peacock and ESPN now, and so I don't really know what they wind up. I mean, they're making that now from Peacock and from ESPN. They're not making it from the individual watchers,
Oh,
and that's the
gotcha.
thing. The fan is becoming irrelevant.
Yeah.
Fan attendance is becoming
Let me ask,
irrelevant to the bottom line.
let me ask you, manager wrestler, do you get to go for free because you were a manager?
Are you kidding me? No.
What?
First of all, I have no connections with the WWE. None. I
Oh,
don't, sometimes I'm lucky if the indie feds will let me in for free, but if not, it's only 10, $20 to go to
okay.
one of those shows. But the WWE has no interest in me whatsoever. I've never received even the slightest bit of interest from the WWE.
Okay, so this kind of goes along the lines. Now, we've had Lee Steinberg on the show a few times, and it's been great. And I've gone to his Super Bowl party when it was in San Francisco, when that was the year that Carolina was going to lose to Peyton Manning and the Broncos. Okay, that
Yes.
year when it was in San Francisco, and it was a nice party and did a lot of good food, a lot of interesting people and famous people and all that. Ever since, I have gotten an invitation for his Saturday night party, but it's been, like if they're playing in the Superdome, I'd have to fly all the way to New Orleans for the party, and so I haven't done that. So this year is back in San Francisco, but this year he's doing something different. If I want to go, I got to pay $200 a ticket,
What?
and it's not even going to be kind of like a party. It's almost going to be like going to one of those promotional event type things where there's going to be a bunch of booths, and I don't even know what the booths are going to be about.
And well, they're probably food booths that you have to pay to get
Yeah,
your money, your
well,
food.
no, I don't think that. I think because it's like when I'm in the business world, you go to symposiums where someone's selling their product or whatever, and I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's kind of like that, and it's like You know what? I don't think I'm going to go this year.
You think, and not only that, if that's the case, then Lee is probably also double dipping because he's probably getting money from these
Oh,
booths,
oh, of
you
course
know,
he is.
to promote their
Yeah,
product. So,
yeah.
it's a guy, and what really bothers me is a guy like Lee Steinberg does not need money. He is not. He is the kind of guy that can afford to sport for a party, one party for everybody once a year.
Well, that last party we went to was, I mean, that cost a pretty penny, but
Good, good. He
yeah.
should do something to pay for. I
Well, you
mean,
know what's funny is he definitely had fallen on hard times when he had his, you know, medical issues and divorce and all that kind of stuff. And then he got back on his feet. So I haven't talked to him recently, so I don't know how he
I know
is.
that he's an agent for some of the highest paid
But
players
he's
in
being an
sports,
agent for some of the, you know,
and
he's
he probably makes over $50 million a year, probably.
I would be surprised if it's that high.
Well, I'm going to go and look up Lee Steinberg's net worth.
Okay. But see how much income is. And the thing is, because he's not a public figure, I don't know how easy that is to find nowadays.
His net worth soars to high around $75 million at his peak.
At its peak.
And in 1999, he sold his sports management agency for $120 million.
Okay, but things went downhill from there.
You could go very far downhill, and you'll still be okay.
You thought he was making 50 million a year.
Well, he made 100 million, $120 million, $199 million.
Yeah,
So you can
one
spread
time
that out.
when okay. Well, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, they average, I think they make 4% commission. It's all, I'm sure it's all negotiable and all that. I
Right.
think
Well, when you say 4% commission, Wikipedia says that Steinberg has successfully negotiated over $3 billion in contracts.
over his career.
Yeah. So take 4% of 3 billion.
I know, but and again, I'm not saying it's chump change. I'm just saying that things changed quite a bit since he had sold his company and things went, downhill. Let's call it that way.
His
But
downhill is better than the most uphill I've ever had. So again, I'm not
well,
all that.
can you look it up and see how much does he make per year now? Did they say that?
No, they don't say. They just say net worth. But
That's kind of hard to say.
you know, the guy's not hurting, and I'm amazed that he needs to run a party where he has to charge people $200 to
Well,
go.
I'm wondering how many people are going to actually go.
Well, if you go, you're a sucker, or you have more money than
I know.
I know what to do with. So,
Yeah, I kind of figured.
I
Yeah,
get for $50 you can come to my house and
there you go.
and I'll get you a Domino's pizza or something.
Well, and I don't even know which famous stars are going to be there. That's the other thing. It's like you're going for the privilege of going to the party, but it's like, I think I'll choose to spend my money elsewhere. Okay,
I
so
think so.
getting back to football because that's our main topic nowadays because of the playoffs. Who's looking?
49ers Chicago. What a
That's gonna be
game
good.
that was. That was.
Yeah.
What if someone had a football game and nobody invited the defenses for either team? That's exactly what that was. Other than the pick six to start
Yeah.
the game off with, Chicago's defense was torn apart by Brock Purdy, but the 49ers defense looked terrible and they almost gave up the 7 points at the very, very end. I was at a bar watching that and I was absolutely at the edge of my seat because
Yeah,
what a
right.
big 49er fan I am.
And it's funny. I'm not a big the Amador Lenore guy, and especially since after he made that big contract. But boy, he did make game. I call it, let's say, a game-saving tackle.
It was the ultimate in bend but don't break. I mean, considering possibly the number one seed for the entire NFC was on the line there. The Niners let Chicago go from the 35-yard line all the
Yeah.
way to like the 2-yard line. I mean, that's that, and just amount of time. There was only 4 seconds left. When
And
they
a little
snapped.
bit better throw, and that would have been a touchdown.
It's true. It landed about a foot and a half in front
Yeah.
of him, and it wasn't because the Niners I mean, when I forgot who it was missed the tackle. on
Yeah.
Caleb
Yeah.
Williams. I
Can't
was like,
remember
oh,
who it was.
that's the key.
Yeah.
That's the thing that you wind up looking at when the guy does complete it in the end zone. And you say to yourself, oh, if
If I
not
could have made
but for
that
that.
one,
And
yeah,
by
I
the
was looking.
way,
Yeah, same
not
thing.
that you asked, but my fantasy football team lost by 5 points in my fantasy Super Bowl. And F you, Jared Goff, for having one of the worst football games I've ever seen in my entire life, getting crushed by Minnesota. And because I had such a poor quarterback showing, I was against Matt Stafford, who was playing equally bad until the
Yeah,
fourth quarter. And then he sort of made that, rousing comeback and had those couple touchdowns
yeah.
in the last, a few minutes of the fourth quarter to make that game close. But
Like
I mean,
in a couple of those catches,
yeah,
this has been some pretty darn good catching. Yeah, catch and
yeah.
receive. I mean, Puka Nakua almost got one, except that he bobbled just at the last bit before he fell out of bounds.
I know. And in another league that I'm in, I got destroyed in. There was a guy who went undefeated all the way to the fantasy Super Bowl. And that Puka Nakua catch and lack thereof
Yeah.
that he dropped would have given him the win. And so he won 15 straight games and
Wow.
loses the Super Bowl by 1 point.
That sort of sounds like
New
when the
England.
Giants beat
Yes.
by New
Yeah, New
England.
England. It was he pulled the Tom Brady where he had almost a perfect season up
Yeah.
until the very last couple of plays of the final game of the fantasy season, and he loses by one. It's one of the most epic collapses of any fantasy team I've ever seen in my life. He destroyed everybody all season long, and he had his one off game. He scored his lowest, his season low, in the final game, and he missed it by 1 point.
And the one, like you said, the one bobbled catch is the one that did it for
Yes, that would have put him over the top. He only needed about 5 more yards for Puka Nakua to win, because he had Puka Nakua as his last player in the final game of the Super Bowl.
So what
And
way they do the Super Bowl? Oh, I guess because the playoffs coming up, they do the Super Bowl now.
all fantasy teams stop at the last game of the season,
Oh,
or the
interesting.
second to last game of the season.
All right, let's go to our last commercial break here. Which country is home to the headquarters of Samsung? That's our trivia question. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. I'll be right back with some closing comments. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. Next week, we'll have Mike McDowd back on. All right, third trivia question. Which country is home to the headquarters of Samsung?
Seoul, Korea, South Korea.
South Korea. Yes. 3 for 3, my friend.
Wow, I don't do that every week.
No, I figured I had to kind of
Variety.
prop.
But you didn't
Yeah,
ask
I
any
figured I
friends
had to
questions.
prop it up a little.
You didn't ask any friends questions.
No friends question. Now, are there TV questions that you want me to ask next week? Do you like TV?
Oh yeah.
Certain.
Oh yeah. I
What-
mean, if you want me to get them all right, you could ask me anything on cartoons. You could ask me anything on, 70s TV going forward. 60s stuff I'm not as strong with, unless it's like Batman.
Okay, so Popeye's nemesis. What was his name?
Well, it depends on whether you're talking the movies, or the comics, or the cartoons.
Okay, would you give me all the ones you know.
Well, there's Bluto, but there's
Yep.
also Brutus.
Very
If it's
good.
the
That's
comics,
actually
he was known as
that's
Brutus.
exactly the answer I was looking for. Is
If it
blue.
was the comics, it's Brutus. But in the movies and in the cartoons, he was known as Bluto.
And remember what Caesar said when he was getting stabbed? Et tu, Bluto? Okay.
Bluto, no, he did not.
That's right. Okay, ready? Are you ready for our thoughts for the day? We know how you like this one. Okay. If you get an email,
Thoughts for next year.
thoughts for next year. That's right. Okay, ready? If you get an email with the subject knock knock, don't open it. It's a Jehovah Witness working from home.
Wow. Okay.
I thought you
All
might
right.
kind of like that one. And you know it's going to be a bad day when your imaginary friend files a restraining order against you.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
That is pretty
Yeah,
bad.
pretty
All right. Audience, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Adios.
So long.